seed starting compost. I mean, there's plenty that you can buy, isn't there? But as you know, I'm a bit of a tight gardener, a little bit thrifty, especially this year, because of course, cost of living, all that sort of thing. We're all feeling the pinch a little bit, aren't we? So this year I decided to see if I could make my own seed starting compost for, well, pretty much as little money as possible. But I still wanted it to be good. I've come up with a recipe and I've tried a whole batch. I did make a full tub full, which I've since used on the chilies and the aubergines and the tomatoes and that kind of thing. And I need some more. So I thought, well, it's worked brilliantly as the first lot, so I'll show you what I did. Because if you want to start making your own and saving a bit of money on the seed sowing as well, then this could be absolutely ideal for you. So the mix that I've been using, it's only got 3 ingredients and they're very easy to come by and very inexpensive as well. And we've got coir, leaf mould and sand. I'll go through each of the ingredients and tell you what the benefits of each of them are. So the first one is the coir. Not all coirs are made equally, it would appear, but often you can find them quite inexpensively. I mean, this one that I've got here is the Wilko one, and 10 litres is £1.75, so that's 18p per litre, which, you know, that's really cheap, is that? And I do find this one is really nice and crumbly. It rehydrates really, really well, and it's so soft, it's just really easy to crumble down. And what's good about coir is that it does hold water really well, but any excess it lets it drain through, and it's often quite fine and quite a uniform texture as well, so that's quite good for the tiny little roots because they don't want anything too chunky to be trying to work their way into. The leaf mould's the one thing that's going to take you a little bit of time. These leaves, they're about 2.5 years old. They were collected at the end of 2020, and all I did was I just collected them up in the bin bags, popped some holes in the bottom to let the creatures in and a bit of water out if it needed, and I just chucked them behind the compost heaps at home and then just completely forgot about them for a couple of years. And this is the first time this bag's been opened up, and as you can see, it's already well rotted down. There's some whole leaves in there, but they're really easy to break up, and there's loads of worms in there as well, which I will rescue. I've got a little worm tub just set aside there where I can rescue them into and put them outside. The benefits of leaf mould, similar to the coir, are that it's moisture retentive, but it does let the excess drain through so your seedlings aren't sat in too much moisture. It's very nutrient light as well because the seedlings don't need a great deal of nutrient. They've got everything that they need in the little seed. And of course it's completely free as well, which, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, does it? As far as places to collect the leaves go, I'd say keep away from wooded areas, because if it's privately owned land, you should really get the permission from the landowner, because otherwise it is actually theft, is that. But also those leaves are part of that ecosystem, so I'd say leave that be, leave that intact, and also just be a bit cautious about collecting them from areas where it could be quite a busy road, because there might be quite a lot of pollution on the leaves as well. So try and stick to little side streets where you can collect it off the pavements, and if you can get an area where there's quite a good mix of different types of trees, because different types of leaves all have different levels of something called lignin in them, and it's quite slow to break down. And if you pick some up where it's all one species that's very high in lignin, it'll take a bit longer to break down. So having a nice blend just gives you a nice mix of leaf mould in your final product. You can speed up the process of the decomposition as well by running over the leaves with the lawnmower when you get home, and then bag it back up and chuck it wherever you're going to chuck them. And the last ingredient is just regular builders sharp sand, just from the builders merchants. And this is really, really cheap. And all this is going to do really is it's going to help me break up the leaf mould, because I can sort of squish all this together and the attrition will kind of break down the leaf mould. But also it's great for drainage, and of course it's really, really fine. So again, it's going to add to this sort of fine mix that the little tiny seedlings and the little roots are going to enjoy. So those are your 3 things, and I'm going to get my rubber gloves on now and start getting the leaf mould into here and just start squishing it up and making a batch. And there's a cat, Maya. Will you shush, please? What? Stay there, you knobhead. Shh. I'm just going to get rid of this cat because she keeps interrupting. Come on, on, Maya. Well, these gloves are really funny. These are all I could find when I wanted to make the original batch, and they are actually bike cleaning gloves. You can put some soap on and you can actually clean your bike because they've got these little sort of hairs, I suppose you could call it, this funny little texture. But we did actually buy these to groom the cat with and she quite likes it, and she doesn't know she's being brushed, so anyway, she's going to get a bit grubby, isn't she, if I try and brush her with these again, unless I clean them up good. But yeah, they're now my leaf mould making gloves. A lovely, beautiful, crumbly, nutrient light, very low cost seed sowing mix. And there's loads here, absolutely loads. I don't think I'll need to make any more this year, you know. There we go. So that's a nice big batch made up, plenty there. And I was weighing it out in one of these little, it's a peanut butter tub. Is this a kilo one of the big ones from the supermarket? You can get them with yoghurt in, that kind of size as well. So that's what I was using for my measurements, and I had 5 little buckets of sand. It looked like it were about 1/5 of a bag, so that had cost about 65p. 7 buckets of the leaf mould, which of course that's 0 cost. 7 little buckets of the coir, which I'm going to guess, each one of them being a kilo, I'm going to just guess that it's about a litre, is that. And I realised I'd actually bought the big brick. It wasn't the 10 litre coir that I got, it was the 40 litre, which is £4, so 10 pence per litre. So 70 pence worth of coir. And in total then, so if we say that one of them's about a litre, I've got about 19 litres, there or thereabouts. It's only sort of done roughly. And that equates to £1.35. Does that, 19 litres for £1.35? So yeah, 7 pence a litre for your seed sowing compost. And the first batch that I made, it was a bit less sandy than this, but it's been perfect, I'd say. I don't know whether I could go out and buy a seed starting compost that's any better than this whatsoever, especially when you take into account the cost element of it as well. I don't know whether some premium formulas might be better for whatever reason than this, but taking into account the cost, I don't think you can beat this. I think it's absolutely fab. So let me know, what have you found with your seed mix this year? Have you bought some? Have you had really good results? Have you had some poor results? And has it put you off? And have I convinced you, if you don't already collect leaves, have I convinced you to start collecting some leaves? Because I know it's a bit of a long game, and you might be thinking, well, I haven't got any leaves, so I can't make this, which is a bit of a shame. But I'd say start at the back end of this year, definitely start doing it. And not next year, year after, maybe, you know, if you chop them up, you may be able to make this. And I tell you what, when you go and get those bags out after they've been left for so long, and you look in them and see what it looks like, the leaf mould, it's a bit like when you think you've got no snacks, and then you go in back at drawer and you find like a Kit Kat, you know, something, whatever you like for a snack. It gives you that sort of feeling. It's absolutely amazing. Fab. Really, really love it. Let me show you what I'd sown. Well, a couple of things I'd sown into it. So I've got a few little tomatoes that have not long been going. Some are yet to show, some are showing through absolutely brilliant. but these are actually in my little tiny paper pots as well, my little recycled dictionary pots that I made. So it'll not be long before these tomatoes I'll actually want potting on, because they are really small little modules that I made, but again, free. So it's wonderful, isn't it? So yeah, they're in the first batch of seed mix. And these ones here now, I thought I'd had a bit of a fail on my long red sweet peppers as well, so I did sow another batch, and I sowed quite heavily, and as you can see, I think pretty much all of them came up in this batch that I sowed. So I've got some to give away to some friends now, because I've got plenty that I've already potted on from the first batch, which did eventually show, and they're in the seed mix as well. So now we've got that huge new batch of seed sowing compost, I'm going to show you what I'm going to be sowing, because even though I've just gone on and on and on about saving money and not spending anything, I want to show you my Premier Seeds haul that I've just got. I caved in, there's some lovely things, and I do need to do the front garden. I just spend so much time at the allotment now that the garden, I must admit, it does sort of get overlooked a little bit. So I've got a few things that down the line they'll be perennial, and they might self-sow a little bit and kind of just take care of themselves just a little bit. So not all of them are perennial, but some of them are. So I'll put links to all of these seeds in the description box, and anything that I can get a picture up for, I'll put a picture up. So first thing we've got is the Syrinth. Now I did sow some of these in a previous video for winter sowing. I've just been reading up on them a little bit better, and it does say that in the south of the country, where it's quite sheltered, it may overwinter and it may be perennial. So I'm wondering whether that were why I didn't have a very good showing on the ones that are winter sowed this year, because it did drop really cold in December for quite a while, you know, a couple of weeks or so. And that might be why they failed. I did get a few through, and it does make you wonder whether those seeds are particularly genetically strong or something like that. You know, they might be just a bit hardier, those plants, who knows. So I do have some, but not as many as I'd like, so I bought some more of those and I can get those started. The next one's a bit of an unusual one, Datura Metal, it's called, if I've said it right. Double purple this variety is, and this is meant to be, once it starts growing, it's meant to be quite a fast grower, and it can get 4 or 5 foot tall or so. I think that's what it put. What did I put on me? I've got some notes on my computer. It says 4 to 6 feet tall. I have written down that you need to soak the seed before planting, because they're quite a tough casing on them. And the flowers are meant to be quite a big flower, quite a large flower. It does make note that every part of the plant is poisonous, so you do have to be really careful, you know, if you've got kids, animals that might like a munch, that kind of thing. So be a bit cautious about that one. But if I can get that one going, I've never grown that before and it looks amazing, so yeah, let's see what happens. I've got 2 Aqualegias, one that's just called Blue and one of them called William Guinness, which is a bit of a purple and white colour. They're both meant to get to about 75 centimetres tall. The blue one, it does say stratify the seeds for a week or 2 in the fridge, so I need to look up the other one and see if that's the same. I did briefly look it up and opened up a can of worms, because I didn't realise how many types of Aqualegia there were, and some like sun, some are more of a woodland plant and like it a bit shadier, a bit more moisture retentive soil, that kind of thing. So I do need to do a little bit more research on those, just so I give myself the best chance. But those generally do self-seed and then they'll come back every year, so that'd be nice if they do that. It's just another that'll take care of itself. I've got a Zinnia Envy, and it's a giant zinnia. I'm just going to look and see how tall. It says 75 to 100 centimetres tall, and with a 4 to 5 inch wide flower, so you know, 10 centimetres to about 12.5 centimetres, and it's a lovely kind of limey green colour. So I just thought that'd be nice to contrast against the sort of bluey, purpley, pinky colours that I've gone for, just to bring a bit of green up high. Now I know that they like it quite warm to germinate, and they don't always like the roots being disturbed as well, but I think what I'll do with that is I'm going to start those really soon and give them a bit of warmth inside, and I'll do them in one of my little paper pots, well, a slightly bigger sized one, like the spice jar sized one, and then I can plant that whole thing, and I'm hoping not to disturb the roots roots too much. I have done I think it's called the Sahara Rose one before, planted that in the back garden, and that I module sowed and then just planted straight out, and actually it were all right. I didn't notice any difference really in disturbing the roots on that one, unless I might have been a bit dexterous, I don't know, but managed okay with that. You can direct sow them outside, but you need to make sure that it's pretty warm, and then the flowers might be a little bit later then. So I am going to try those and try and then plant them out and see if it works okay. So the next one, Liatris spicata. Going to look at my little notes. That's meant to be 90 centimetres tall, and this is a perennial one, and this was really nice because it's actually got quite narrow sort of spear shaped grass like leaves in a little bit of a cushion at the bottom, and then it's got a flower spike that rises up above all that. So I thought that was interesting for the two different heights, and it'll give a bit of ground cover as well where the grassy area is. So again, trying to, you know, minimise weeding if it excludes a bit of light and that kind of thing. That might be a really nice one to try because I haven't grown that one before either. The next one is Echinops Metallic Blue, and this one says it's about 125 centimetres tall. So again, we've got quite a nice spread of height going up to maybe the back fence in the front garden, and this one should be perennial as well. It did say to not exclude light when these are sown, so it must need, you know, a little bit of light to germinate, so I'll have to bear in mind that when I sow those. It also says that it likes good drainage as well, so I might have to put a bit of gravel perhaps in the planting hole because I've got clay soil. And if I put them towards the back where they will be anyway, if they'll be quite tall, then there is a slight slope, so hopefully the water might be naturally draining away anyway. So I think they'll be okay, and it's going to be fun to see what those look like. So then I've got a Cerastium, a snow in summer, which is quite a low growing, creeping, ground cover typed plant. It's got a silvery coloured foliage and a white flower, because I have actually got some quite decent sized stones that I got from someone's skip, so I'm going to make a little wall of those and maybe have those growing over the top. But if I've got a bit of ground cover, again, hopefully it'll exclude the light and there might not be so many weeds as well. And for the same reason, I've got an Aubrietia, because everybody likes a bit of Aubrietia, don't they? It flowers quite early, sort of March, April time. It does say that it'll flower in the second year, so we should just get some greenery this year. But that's another one with a nice sort of spreading habit, and it flows over walls and that kind of thing. This is the Nana Compacta Mixed, and so this has got a few different colours in it, and they're all sort of blues and purples and pinky tones that are in there. And so that should be quite nice as well, sort of flowing over the ground and hoping to suppress the weeds a little bit. So yeah, I've got quite a nice similar sort of colour palette going on there, and hopefully I've picked them quite well so that I've got a few different heights going on as well. I did also get just a couple of other allotment type things as well. I just bought myself a new type of carrot, the Burlicum 2. I've heard Steve from Green Side Up mentioning this carrot. I'm sure it was Steve that talked about that one. And just because I'm a bit bored with the carrot selection I've got at the moment, I thought, oh, I'll try those because, you know, if they're recommended. And also thyme, just some common thyme as well. I have just cleared out a strawberry planter that I made at the back of the house, and I've taken the strawberries up to the plot. So I would like to create a bit of a herb garden in this little planter that I've got, and maybe have some rosemary and thyme and some other bits and bobs in there. And I use a lot of thyme as well. I'm always buying it, I seem to be. So if I can get some decent thyme growing and dry some for the end of the year, maybe I can stop buying that as well. Now I've got my big batch made of the seed sowing compost, I can get on and sow a few of these, can't I, and get them started. And if you've enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. And if I've inspired you, or if you've learnt something today, please leave me a comment by all means. Let me know if I've convinced you to go out and collect some leaves when it comes to the autumn time, if you don't already, because I think they are absolutely wonderful and, you know, completely free. And I think it's something that we should all be doing. They're just a fabulous resource. And thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye.